Hey bibliophiles, let's break it down. Today we're talking to Emily, aka Exponentially Emily, and she is the kind of Bookstagram presence we all need more of. She brings bluntness with just the right tinge of humor, and she's never afraid to call out the cringier side of Bookstagram, usually with a reel that makes you laugh, but it gently reminds everyone this is a space that's supposed to be fun. I genuinely love when she pops up on my feed because I know I'm about to smile and remember why Bookstagram is so great in the first place. People like her. Hey Emily, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to finally be chatting because when I first joined Bookstagram again, like your reels were like constantly in my feed for whatever algorithm reason. I'm like, oh my gosh, these always make me laugh and smile. So when you agreed to come on, I was like, yes.
Well, I am glad that they make you laugh because that's always the goal. I have some serious content here and there, but I always try to interject a little bit of humor because life is better with a little laugh.
Right. And I think it's one of those like, yes, this is supposed to be the fun stuff, but like, let's address the elephant in the room too, which I feel like you have like the best, classiest way of doing.
Yeah, I never like to I hate being negative. Um, it's just not who I am.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of negativity in the bookish space. So I try to address the issues without making it so negative in like a tactful way, but also it's a little bit of humor because a spoonful of sugar, right?
Well, I was gonna ask, like, what made you start joining Bookstagram? Like, how did you find your rhythm?
So I actually started over on BookTok,
Okay.
and that was back in 2024, I think. And so I started over there. I didn't really start my Bookstagram until the big TikTok ban in January of
Eh.
2025, and I was panicking and scrambling, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I've built up like 12,000 followers at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna lose all of that. So I went to Bookstagram, and I love it. It's a different community for sure
Mhm.
than BookTok. But I love the little side of Bookstagram that I've landed on because I've found so many other creators and people who love the same books I do and love the chaotic, humorous side. And I don't know, I don't take myself too seriously. Um, and I've found a lot of people that are in the same boat as me, and it's been a great experience.
So, with your experience, because like I'm very new to Book Talk, like I'm quasi comfortable in Bookstagram. I have no freaking idea what I'm doing in Book Talk. Like, what do you think like the major differences are in the vibes, or like how do people find their footing?
Um, so I Oh, it's so hard to compare because I joined each of them at such a different time
Mhm.
when you talk about the book community in 2024 versus even what it is now. It's different. Things evolve and things change. And I think the biggest thing on Book Talk that really launched my everything on there, I did lives a lot on
Mm.
TikTok, like multiple days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. Um, and I also was posting 3 to 6 times a day when I first started Book Talk, because that was the recommended advice at that time. And it was a lot. It was a lot of filming and then editing later. But I think that what I found with Bookstagram and the biggest difference is I put out less content on
Mhm.
Bookstagram and I focus on putting out just higher quality pieces of content rather than throwing up everything that pops into my mind.
Okay. And so for people that may be new to you altogether, regardless of platform, what are some books that you would say like, hey, these books are like my kind of vibe. Like if you like these, you and I are gonna have a good time.
Oh, okay. This is always so hard for me because I feel like they're all my babies that I love them so much and it's hard to pick, but I'll do five. because I
Okay.
feel like that's a reasonable amount. And if not, I'll be here all day. I would have to say, and we're just going series because I cannot possibly pick one single
Oh
book.
yeah,
We're
that.
going with The Grishaverse by Leigh
Okay.
Bardugo,
Okay.
Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, which is like, those two are, oh my goodness. And then we have to go with the Letters of Enchantment series by Rebecca Ross. And oh, I have two left. Oh my goodness. Oh, the pressure. And I thought about this before and I still can't decide. Um, it's so hard to pick.
I know.
Okay, I have been in such a cozy fantasy mood lately, so I'm gonna have to go with the Adenishire series by Jay Penner.
Okay.
And then last one, it's got to be literally anything by Megan Quinn.
Okay. Okay. That's fair.
Um, I have to throw my rom-com in there every once in a while when I'm like too deep in world building and fantasy. You know what I mean? It gets heavy sometimes, and I gotta lighten the mood. So Megan Quinn is my go-to.
Okay. So since you brought up Throne of Glass, I actually haven't had anyone ask this, but like, so I've read A Court of Thorns and Roses. I've read Crescent City.
Okay.
Throne of Glass intimidates me because people like are very passionate about how to read it. And like I don't know really what the deal is with like you gotta tandem read these two at once. Like so what is your recommendation? Like go in order they were published or
I go in publication order.
okay.
That's what I did. I Some people love Assassin's Blade. I am not one of those people.
Okay.
Um, and when I first started, so I did Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and then Assassin's Blade. And I liked that reading order because I
That's
don't
how
know
the
how to
good
put this
Lord
lightly, but
SJM intended.
in Assassin's Blade, Selena is very insufferable. And and this is just my opinion. Some people love this one. It's five different novellas. A lot of people don't realize that it's not an entire novel. You're just getting five different novellas. And it's not taking place in present time. It's like a flashback. So when you're reading it, if chronologically you can start with that and that will be like your beginning, your base, but I don't feel like I would have connected with the character at all if I
Mm,
read Assassin's Blade first.
and I think that's like kind of the tricky thing with like fantasy or romantasy sometimes is because it's like you got to build these things, but like if you introduce things at the wrong time or it could completely set off the whole vibe and like not connect with readers as much. I had no idea that book was actually a bunch of novellas. Like that is brand new information to me.
A lot of people don't realize that, and it's broken into five different parts, each different novella, and it takes place like in different locations as well too. So you're getting a broader picture of the world, but it's a lot to go straight into that because
Hmm.
most of that stuff that's in that book is important way later on and
Okay.
not necessarily relevant to what's happening in the first two to three books. That's just my take on it. Obviously, read whatever order your heart tells you to. Um, to each their own. I know some people skip it altogether. Don't recommend. Um, because there are some important foreshadowing and like important details that you wouldn't get otherwise. But I would recommend either third or fourth if I had to.
See, the only reason I will skip or not read is if it's a different author. Like Dune by Frank Herbert, like his son started actually writing the rest of the book, so like I will never complete that series because like it's not Frank. And also like The Godfather, like The Godfather Returns was written by someone that wasn't the original author. So it's like That I think to me personally is the only way I could just deal with like not reading a book in a series. But like it's still
Yeah, it's there. I will say there's a reason why she didn't publish it as five different novellas and she published it together
yeah.
because those details, even though they don't make sense at the time that you read it, they're going to make a lot of sense later. And it's just like, I could talk about Throne of Glass for literally an hour with you. It's the way that she has woven all of these small, little, seemingly insignificant details into Kingdom of Ash specifically.
Mhm.
All of the little Easter eggs and all of the things, like it's the way that she created this world. And it's still astonishing to me that she started this at 16 because the
Yeah.
way that she finishes it is like the perfect little bow at the end. Like everything ties in together, everything. Things that you think don't matter at all come together in this like heart-wrenching. I just don't have words for Kingdom of Ash. Like I have been reading since I was a child. Like I've always
Mhm.
loved reading. My first like big chapter book that I read on my own was The Princess Academy, which
Okay.
Bloomsbury actually sent me a copy of this past year. And I was like so excited because like I have a shelf trophy of that with the new cover.
Oh.
Um, but I've always loved to read. And then I got to college
Mhm.
and some other things became priority. And now that I'm a mom, and when I was really trying to find myself postpartum and figure out who I am, what I even like, because I lost all sense of self when I had postpartum depression and anxiety and OCD. And it took so much for me to find myself again. And books became an integral part of that because the way that I was able to read traumas on a page that I could recognize in my own life and then see by the time it's wrapped up the way that they've healed and their healing journey and how far they even still have to go is just such a beautiful thing. And I think that the mental aspect is something that people don't talk about a lot with fiction. Um, and we do have, people that have this superiority complex that nonfiction is better than fiction. And that's just not the case.
Agreed.
It's not the case at all. And I feel like I have learned more about myself and who I am and who I want to be by reading fiction books than I have through any self-help book that I've read in my entire life. And Throne of Glass and Akatar was the one that I started with when I started reading again. And I feel like this is what they call the Sarah J. Maas effect
Yes.
that everybody kind of goes through. And then I read Throne of Glass immediately after.
Mhm.
And I didn't know if I would like it. So I bought each book individually, every
Every
single
single.
book individually every time I went to go read a book. And I have a picture. I made my husband drive to Walmart the second that I finished the tandem read so that I could go pick up Kingdom of Ash. And I got the last copy in the store. And that book is thick.
Okay.
I finished it in like 3 days, and my husband couldn't tell me anything. I was a sobbing mess after I finished it. That book broke me and healed me and fueled everything that has happened so far on my reading journey because Akatar was great. It was a fun ride. But Throne of Glass is just such an emotional roller coaster that like I feel like you don't find Throne of Glass. It finds you when you need it. And I feel like a lot of people who have been through traumas really resonate with it. And everybody has their own kind of trauma.
Mhm.
And it's not just the main character either. And I feel like that's what's so important is every single character has their own traumatic backstory that's done so tastefully and so I don't even have the words for it because you see all these different characters and this was one of my first like multi POV
Mhm.
series.
Mhm.
And so that's why I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it like that because you know Akatar is mainly Feyre.
Sarah, yeah.
Um, and then you get into Throne of Glass and you're seeing all these different characters' perspectives, and it just feels real and raw, and it's ugly, and it's not pretty in some places, and it shows the like darkest parts of humanity. And I feel like that resonated with me a lot because I was at the darkest point within myself. So I could keep talking about Throne of Glass forever, but
No,
I'll let you go ahead and ask your next questions.
well, no, I think what you said about like postpartum and like really, finding yourself of your sense of self again with books, that's something I talked to like Anna on Kindle about. Um and like also think like people that trash fiction, like there's nothing to be learned by fiction. Like for me, what I really enjoy about fiction is like I am a very distinct, blunt individual. And like a lot of people that I meet are not like me, but like when I read, it's like, oh my gosh, look at these different perspectives. Like even with the Archeron sisters and A Court of Thorns and Roses, you got Nesta, who's like ready to roll with petty and frustration at any moment. And then you got Feyre who's like just trying to make best of any situation and like trying to be there for her family. And then you have sweet little Elaine, that's trying about to come into her own book or whatever, potentially. But I think like throughout books, no matter what you read in fiction, you know, yes, it's fiction, but there are things that make people tick that you can apply in real life, and you can see what motivates people and what doesn't motivate people, and how to have conversations and how to have conflict. And all of those things are skills that can be applied to real life. So like when I see people hate on fiction, I'm just like, you don't understand. You don't understand.
Exactly. And I think too that reading diversely is something that helps with that perspective because I always make it a point to read as many diverse stories as I can, especially within fantasy, because I feel like, for lack of a better term, fantasy is really whitewashed.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to lift up those other voices. Some of my favorite person of color authors are um, Mai Corland. I love Tracy Dion and the Legendborn series. So good. Isabel Ibanez with historical fantasy. Like there are just so many good stories from all backgrounds. And for example, like the Five Broken Blades trilogy, which was incredible, taught me so much about like Korean cultures. It's
Hmm.
based on Korean mythology and things like that. And so seeing all of those different perspectives, LGBTQ voices, all of that, it helps with your empathy. And not only that, but just cultural awareness of like, we all have like some of the same things going on. It doesn't matter what we look like, it doesn't matter where we live. Like, there are so many things that intersect within different cultures and different people, and so many things that are just human nature. And reading diversely helps you understand that just because someone looks different from you doesn't mean they're really that different from you.
Agreed. And even in not fantasy, because I picked up a thriller slash horror recently, The Possession of Alba Diaz. Um, the author's name is escaping me, but basically it was talking about like a South American caste system depending on how your family originated in like, some kind of Muslim bloodlines, and it was actually rooted very much in fact. And so like every other page when like a Spanish word was brought up, I had to stop and Google and be like, okay, because like I'm sure with context clues, but it's like I want to know like when they say this term, why is it derogatory? Like stuff like that. So like I probably did more research with that thriller book than any other book I've done like since college. It's
No, I love that because it gets you curious about things. And it gets you to really like think like there's so many. I love historical fantasy. It's one of my favorite subgenres because like you just said, I have to go and like look things up. I'm like, wait, did that really happen?
hmm
And like more often than not, especially within historical fantasy and magical realism, it's really not that far off from the truth at all. You're just changing around some little things. And so I've done a lot of research about history within the past couple years. Not only for that, for my own fantasy book that I'm writing. Stay tuned. Um, but yeah, it's crazy. And I feel like reading of any kind makes you smarter, more empathetic, gives you those critical thinking skills. It doesn't matter what you read. It's it doesn't matter what you're reading. If you are reading, you are building all of those things and giving yourself valuable life skills. And I think BookTok and Bookstagram has been a blessing for the future generation because literacy in our country is at an all-time low. And the fact that so many adults are talking about reading, even if it's our little fairy smut books, we are getting an entirely new generation interested in actually paying attention to books because we are setting that example. And I think that that is such a beautiful thing. One of the other driving factors that got me back into reading is all of the books that I bought my kids when they were first born. We built them a
hmm
little library, and I was like, hey, now I want to read too. So it's like a beautiful full circle moment. And um, I do have a children's book, Dinos Don't Drink Coffee, that is available for pre-order now, um, that I wrote for my son. And so I don't know, it's just the book space has completely changed my life in ways that I never imagined.
I agree. And that's kind of like why I wanted to do this podcast because there is something special here in this little corner of the internet. And it like, especially as like we are also growing, because I think being in this technical space at our age, like back in the day, you used to read a book and maybe you'd be part of a book club and that was it. That was the most you could talk about it. But having the internet and being like, no, this is a great book because of X, Y, Z. Like, please read this. It will help shape your mind, help shape your perspective. Like, I agree. I think this is showing how important books are. I am so I work in IT, so sometimes I have two logical ones. I am shocked at how little Amazon has invested in Goodreads because for like a profit perspective for them, like they own a recording studio now, four TV shows, four books. They have Amazon Prime. They own Goodreads. And 99% of the time, if you need good material to make those things, they're off of books. And so it's like seeing them not trying to amplify the book side of things that they have ample opportunity for really frustrates me because it's like, yeah, reading is political and it gets messy, and having a TV show and a movie is a lot easier to pass off, but like, put your money where your mouth is, like,
I think that I definitely agree that Goodreads is great and I love using it, but it could be better.
yeah.
The app as a whole could be better. Like there are other apps that have more features and stuff. And I continue to use Goodreads because let's be honest, I read a lot on Kindle and I am a lazy bitch. So I like that it just adds the books to my reading challenge. Um, but I think all in all that like you're right, like they started off with the Kindle and the books, and that
Hmm.
was a huge thing. And then, like you said, we got more into the TV shows and the movies, and I'm in the majority here when I say this. I get a little sick of the book to movie or TV show adaptations. Now, don't get me wrong. I love that for the authors. That is
Hmm.
incredible. It's an amazing achievement. But 9 times out of 10, it's not done correctly.
Yes.
And that's where I have issues with that. But that's neither here nor there. I do agree that there's material there for them to stop reusing the same things and remaking the same movies. But I also think, and this is again kind of a hot take, that within the past few years that we've had generative AI at our fingertips, creativity as a whole has just plummeted because I swear it's like people are not using their brains anymore. Um, and so briefly, I did voice acting and training, and the
Hmm.
scripts that we used were from real life chat GPT conversations, just random stuff for me to read to use my voice, right?
Hmm.
People treat AI like it's a friend, like it's an idea bank, and just copy and paste whatever it says. And since that has happened, since ChatGPT has happened, I've had job interviews where they're like, yeah, we use ChatGPT for everything. And people are not thinking for themselves anymore.
Hmm.
And that's one of the biggest reasons for decline in media in general. And we're seeing it sadly with books now too, because it's more accessible and easier to publish books. And a lot of people do not have qualms about using AI in their writing, in their books, so that they can do it faster. And then not even that, but publishing has just become like a race to the finish line. How fast can we push this out? And I'm like,
Hmm.
you want things to take months when they should take years to perfect everything. And that's just my 2 cents on the way that the industry has been lately and what the issue is with that. But I think that generative AI has caused quite an uproar in all of the creative communities.
I agree, and I think it absolutely needs to be talked about. Like, in my industry, like I get questions because I'm in higher ed, IT, and it's like, oh, faculty want to know, like, if someone has used ChatGPT or Copilot or Grok, if a student has used that. And there is no detection. There is no perfect unit of being able to say, was this AI or not? But if you become well versed and you are, if you use it, if you study it, it's usually like pretty obvious when something is completely and there's no original thought. I always say like AI is supposed to be a tool. It's not supposed to be a
Oh,
replacement.
I forgot you were out here.
It should be an assistant. Like, don't get me wrong. I personally have used it. Like, I'll be at work slamming my head against a laptop and I'm like, oh my God, why doesn't this code work? And it'll be like, oh, it's this syntax issue. But never have I sat down with it and been like, code this thing for me that I can just rip off and use in my environment because I think that's a disservice to like humanity because it's just it's supposed to be a resource to assist you, but you're absolutely right. Like when it becomes devoid of critical thinking, when it becomes devoid of creativity, like what are we doing here? And I really thought I read Jurassic Park, the book, and it was quite different than the movie. And it kept raising the question like we did it, but we don't know if we should have. And that book has haunted me when it's come to AI.
So I definitely agree with all of that. It should be an assistant. Like, I mean, I'll use ChatGPT for things like finding trending, um, hashtags and keywords and stuff, like for things that are analytical, not creative. And I think
Mhm.
that's the biggest um, difference between what it was supposed to be used for and now what it's currently being used for. And then on the opposite end, there's this whole witch hunt for people to, you used AI because you said, let's do this, or you used an
M
M
dash.
dash. It's always the M dash. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think both sides of that argument, I would never outright accuse anyone of using AI, but I definitely think that it's taken a hit on creativity in
Agreed.
general.
Okay, so I know we're wrapping up, but you mentioned your kids' book, you mentioned you're writing other books, so did you want to take some time to explain all the exciting things happening?
Yeah, so Dinos Don't Drink Coffee is my children's book that I wrote for my 3-year-old. It is for ages 2 to 6. And it's a fun rhyming storybook, perfect for bedtime. It's very humorous, very chaotic, but there's a nice undertone of love all throughout the book, and a huge focus on family. And I do have a fantasy work in progress right now. It's untitled, but we'll get there soon. And my biggest goals for this year are to really focus on growing my accounts and also my writing. And this year, I think one of the biggest things for me is actually taking care of myself because that's something that I neglect a lot, especially being a mom. So taking care of myself physically and mentally. And I just see great things happening in the year of 2026. So
I absolutely agree, and I will have all of your social media links, your links to your published book, everything down below in the description because I know I will be eagerly awaiting all of the updates on your upcoming series.
thank you so much. I appreciate it. And it was great to speak to you today. Hopefully, you'll have me on again sometime soon because this was super fun.
Of course, and thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, it was great to meet you and talk to you.
Yeah, no more IMs, just like face to
I
face and voice.
know.
I love it.
I love that.
Well, have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.